Hey, I'm Tan Vinh, and this is Seattle Eats, a food podcast from the Seattle Times and KUOW. The Seattle restaurant scene is always in flux. I have so much to catch you up on with openings, closings, and pivots. One acclaimed Seattle restaurant, Mamnoon, shut its door on September 14th. For 13 years, the popular Middle Eastern created dishes from Lebanon and Syria with a Northwest twist. But the owners say high cost and low turnout hit them hard. But there's some good news. A lot of new restaurants open in Seattle. One hotspot is Slinging Sandwiches in Phinney Ridge, and another is a small plate bistro in Wallingford. I'll get into all the ups and downs of this month's food scene with my editor Trevor Lenzmeier. Ready? Let's roll! Hey Seattle Eaters! My editor, Trevor Lenzmeier, is in the house. Hey, Trevor. Welcome back.
Tan, how you doing? Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for coming on the show. Well, you know this routine, Trevor. Openings and closing. Give listeners the insight how this works at the Seattle Times when we do openings and closings.
Totally. I mean, I think everybody knows there's a ton of churn in the restaurant industry. So on a monthly basis, we're rounding up profiling closures as well as openings. And then bigger ones, especially those longtime places that impact the community, we broke those out even more frequently.
Yeah. And for listeners, if you haven't read openings and closing, why haven't you? And why aren't you getting a subscription to the paper?
Or multiple subscriptions.
There you go. But anyway, if you haven't, I'm going to give you the clip notes. Today, I want to tell you about two major openings and two major closures. And one of the closures is more of a pivot. What do you think? Should we start with the bad news first?
I think so. Let's rip off the Band-Aid.
Okay. So, two closures I want to talk about today, Trevor. One is called Mamnoon. It's a Syrian and Lebanese cuisine restaurant that opened 13 years ago on Capitol Hill. It's owned by Rasha and Wasef Haroun. They're not the first to do Syrian and Lebanese cuisine. You see that in Renton and on the South End and even on the East Side. But it is groundbreaking in the sense that this is sort of like a high-end restaurant on Capitol Hill 13 years ago, which was the largest stage for Seattle to showcase a restaurant.
Sure. It ended up expanding, right? I mean, into different concepts, different price points with their mama restaurant group.
Exactly.
So what's the deal then? What's the break? Why are they closing?
I think we've heard this story before. The owner said that, business has dropped off 40 to 50% since 2023. Parking has gotten tougher. And there is just more restaurant options now than ever before. The part that I think has stuck out to a lot of our readers, and I'm sure listeners will know this, is they say the perception. The perception is that Seattle is, quote, the big, bad, dangerous city, unquote. And keep in mind, they say perception. They didn't say that was a reality. And that is the problem that they have. And they've been struggling ever since in the last 2 years.
A lot of buzzwords that you hear on the news. The cost of food is up, inflation on those things. Big macro factors, right? Supply chains, triple nets, rent, everything's expensive.
Yes, labor, everything. Yeah. Trevor, I went there their final night. Like many final nights of a restaurant, it was packed. And that's typical. It's that nostalgia, right? The desire to get that last signature grilled chicken or whatever the signature dish is before the place shuts down. And even though we had a reservation, it took us like a while to find a table. We had some lamb skewers, chicken skewers, and some sides and sort of like a lamb pie-ish sort of dish that was the special of the night, and some dumplings. Typically, I feel sad about last night. But Mamnoon's greatest hits is going to live on in other spots like M-Bar in South Lake Union and Mamnoon Street Eats in Belltown near the Amazon Spheres. So it's not really a goodbye, more like a see you later.
It's kind of like the Who going on their 10th farewell tour.
Leave the Trevor to throw in a British band reference. But the other big closure is a project by Chef Brendan McGill. It's called Seabird, a high-end seafood restaurant along the main drag of downtown Bainbridge Island. And it will close at the end of September. And for all the talks about the bounties of seafood that we have in our backyard, we don't have a lot of fine dining seafood restaurant. Chef McGill thought the same thing. Why aren't there more high-end seafood restaurants?
Yeah.
He went all in on this fine dining concept. He invested in vintage silverware, custom pottery plates, and had pricey champagnes. And he earned a lot of Best New Restaurants accolades from Esquire magazine and Bon Appetit magazine shortly after he opened. But if we learn anything, Trevor, just because you get a national shout out does not mean that you're bulletproof from all the challenges that restaurants face. Labor costs, food costs. People just aren't eating out as much as they used to.
That's the big one. I mean, it feels like across the food industry, chefs here and elsewhere have told us time and time again, the butts have not returned to seats, as it were. Folks are, for any number of reasons, being more guarded with their wallets and not eating out as much. And it just feels like the entire restaurant industry has had a very slow COVID recovery. And you're right. It seems like Seabird was a big swing that kudos and credit to Chef McGill. He has admitted, on record, hey, it didn't pan out.
Yeah. And he is the first chef, or the first in a while, Trevor, who have showed us some of the numbers. Even, say, on a Saturday, if you have a packed house, if all 40 seats are filled up and it's 2 turns a night, the average check per person is only $53.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, after all the labor and food costs, he just clears only $200 in profit. And that's just not going to cut it. That tells you some of the struggles of this industry.
Totally. Well, and you've got the flip side. It always feels like that's like a gap in understanding between the customer who might say, oh, it's so expensive for me. How is it also so expensive for you? They've had to be really, 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 adaptable to the times, especially the last 5 years since the pandemic.
Yeah. And adapt to the times he has, because Seabird, the concept of a fine dining restaurant is closing.
He'll remain in the space.
Yes, it will pivot. He would not tell me what his new restaurant concept is that's replacing Seabird. But he kind of sort of gave us a hint, because he says that, quote, fine dining still works in Seattle if you use your space as a multi-purpose room.
Yeah.
And he pointed out that Beast and Cleaver, a restaurant in the Ballard area, is a great example of this model. You know it, right?
There's the popular kind of boutique butcher shop. It does small seatings, kind of does a little bit of everything, has a very popular burger pop-up that shows up on the menu that I know it's an expensive burger, and they make like 150 and they sell like hotcakes. They just disappear.
Right. And when they're not selling burgers, they sell sandwiches.
Yeah.
And when they're not selling sandwiches, they open their dining room for tasting menus, high-end tasting menus, and they teach classes in there. So that's what he means by multi-purpose. Use your space in the morning, use space in the afternoon, use your space at night or on weekends. We actually seen this before, Trevor. It's mostly, for example, Vietnamese coffee houses.
Totally.
If you talk to any Vietnamese coffee house owner, they don't understand this Western model of coffee house where you open at 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. and then you're done. You're closed at 2 p.m. It's like, real estate is expensive in Seattle. Why are you just closing at 2 p.m.? The Vietnamese coffee house concept is it's sort of like an Italian
Or the
cafe.
all-day European cafe. Exactly.
Cafe.
Exactly. Espresso in the morning, vino in the afternoon, a cocktail, you go to bed.
Yes, and they have banh mi, French pastry. They have lunch. They have happy hour. And at night, they turn to an art gallery or pop-ups. And that's what I think Brendan McGill is alluding to. Use your space that you have in several formats. Like my colleague, Jackie Valeriano, recently did a story in Pivot. And Communion, a restaurant in the Central District, has a pivot plant.
Totally.
How does that work, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar idea, right? Not to bury the lead. Brunch is back at Communion. And it was after, I want to say, a year, maybe 2-year hiatus. And they already had folks that were coming in to do prep work, to do some of the labor that supports Christy Brown and Damon Bomar's catering business that Brown Girl cooks. Yeah. And so the figure is, okay, we've got folks who are getting paid there. Let's get an extra service in. And as you said, nostalgia plays. Anything we haven't had in a while. We're bringing back something that we had before, we know how to do, is familiar, that feels very new, that opens up a little bit more revenue on a weekly basis, and you get a little bit of bang for buck with folks who are already there working on Sunday mornings, who are also now bringing in, Sunday morning brunch dollars. So we've talked about Communion and a pivot there. We've talked about Chef McGill and Seabird, and has alluded toward kind of a flexible model. So, I mean, again, what works? Is it just counter serve? Is it low overhead? What are you seeing as far as trending up?
Oh, you want to talk about trending up? There's a new place, Trevor. And I feel like everyone knows about this place all of a sudden. It's called Fortuna Bottega. It's an Italian deli in Phinney Ridge. And let me tell you how busy this place is. When I called the owner, I said, man, I heard you guys have long lines. How long is the line? And he said, the line stretches into places we can't even see.
Yeah.
And I went there Trevor, he was not exaggerating. Yeah. I would say the last time I did walk the line, it was 2.5 blocks long.
What kind of leads to a place cracking like that and the lines going up?
Stop me if you've heard this before. The hot sandwich they're doing now is a mortadella sandwich.
Oh, wow.
Have we talked about this before? I want to mention this as one of the hot openings because this is also an example of how I think the food economy in Seattle can work. Basically, they don't even cook. They basically just assemble sandwiches. They don't need servers. They don't need a chef. So they cut out a lot of their labor costs already.
Yeah.
Trevor, pretty much all they make really in-house is their bread. And that's it. Everything else are just Italian cured meats that they buy from a wholesaler. So basically, they make the bread, and what do we know about bread? Just flour and water. Yeah. High profit margin item. Yeah. It's like, I would call it a Tuscan flatbread. To newcomers, I would say it's sort of like a focaccia, except it's thinner. It's not as fluffy, and it's kind of crispy, which is, I believe, what Americans like. That they like that crunchy texture. Instead of that spongy focaccia texture, and that's what you have here. And they sell for about $20 a sandwich, and it's been a big hit. You can complain about the price, and people have, but the line is still pretty long.
Yeah.
It is so long, Trevor, that they originally advertised that we're open from 11:30 to 5 o'clock. They have never made it to 5. I kid you not. Every day by 2 p.m. They just ran out of bread.
And give me a taste. Like, it's pretty simple. That's the Italian cooking 101 is keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And I talked to the chef, and he says our goal is 5 ingredients or less. Yeah. And I was like, I don't think it's 5 ingredients. I think it's more like 3 ingredients. Like the mortadella is just like, hey, stracciatella cheese, pistachio, mortadella. And that's it. Well, okay, maybe some olive oil. So this is a concept where it has worked, and it has, because, Trevor, we did a story in this on how mortadella is a hot sandwich. Because it's good, but the reason why you also see it a lot around everywhere in Seattle, about 24 places, it makes economic sense. I don't think it's an exaggeration that this is, in a sense, a feature of Seattle dining in terms of fast casual.
Yeah, it totally seems like it's the sandwich of the moment. And I think that's so funny because it's an Italian sandwich. I mean, and I saw the same thing. It just popped one week and all of a sudden everybody on my Instagram algorithm is talking about Fortuna.
That's the place to go.
Are there any other big new openings we should know about?
Oh, I'm going to throw you a wild card.
Okay.
Fortuna is too easy because no one talks about it. I'm going to throw a place that I know you haven't heard about and most listeners haven't heard about. It's another Italian restaurant, small plate bistro with wine pairing. The place is called Occhi, Belli. Mm-hmm. They advertise as a wine bar, but it is not 21 over only. It is all ages, and it's mostly small plates, and the food there is pretty good. And I think it's very approachable. A lot of the small plates are under $20, and it's stuff that we're very familiar with. It's sausages, it's house-made meatballs, house-made pasta, gnocchi. And because of the price point, it's very agreeable. So this is one to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to be back soon. And so if you want to try something new, check out this place. It's on the main drag of Wallingford.
What in particular is like, again, refreshing in its simplicity, or what has you? Obviously, just because you write about so many bar openings, plenty of them have small plates. What makes this one stand out?
One is the familiarity angle. It's like Italian food. What do people love? Meatballs. We have that. What do people love? Sausages. We had that. Pasta. Again, very familiar. And 2, we talk so much about food economy. And I think this is another example of how it can work in Seattle. The other example we use was an Italian deli. They don't really cook. They just assemble sandwiches. They're like Subway. I'm sorry, they don't like that.
The Italians are going to come for you after this episode between that and a few others. I'm distancing myself from this guy.
But, you know, that Italian deli is just, it's like Subway. You're assembling stuff. You're not really cooking. Yeah. But here's a case.
AI is like the statue of David.
Oh. And here's an example for all those angry people. Calm down. Here's an example where food economy works and you're cooking. The key is they use the word wine bar. So everyone who comes there, the social contract, the unwritten social contract is you're going to order wine. And wine, as any restaurateur will tell you, is easy money. It's the way to make money. Because, Trevor, let's face it, it's hard to actually cook 2 entrees, to sync it up and to deliver to guests and have it taste good. It's actually really hard. But if you order a bottle of wine, if you order a couple of glasses of wine, that's 1, high profit margin. And 2, you're not doing anything. You're just pouring wine. because that's a wine bar. I'll give you an example. It was me and two other friends who went there. We ordered 2 bottles of wine for our dinner. It added up to $150 after tax and tip, just for the wine itself.
Yeah.
So the average sales for just for the wine was $50 a head.
Yeah.
And what did we say about Seabird? They said the total sales on the food was $53 a person. And here, this wine bar, they got to figure it out. $50 just for wine alone for my party, and that's not including food. A lot of the small places are under $20, so you're thinking, oh, this is cheap. It's only $20, and we share plates with other people at the table. But just like dim sum, right? It stacks up.
It stacks up fast.
The bill. So I think, one, Occhi Belli is a really good restaurant. I like what they're doing. And 2, I think this is another example of food economy, that how it could work, the wine sale. This is my segue to say, hey, why don't we go to Occhi Belli and I can charge it to the paper.
Well, I'm hungry, so you've got me in a vulnerable position. I'll say yes if you can tell me what Occhi Belli means in Italian.
I do not know what
Sounds like lunch is on you.
There you go. Well, people, listeners, Google it, because I don't know what that means. Trevor, thanks for coming on my show.
Grazie mille, amico.
Oh, now you're just showing off.
I just wanted to take some heat off you with my bad Italian pronunciation for the Subway comment.
That's it for today. We have a list of all the restaurants we talked about in the description of this episode. Thanks for listening to Seattle Eats. The show is a production of the Seattle Times and KUOW, part of the NPR network. You can support Seattle Eats by investing in the local newsroom and the specialized beats that make this storytelling possible. Please consider joining and subscribing at KUOW.org/eats and SeattleTimes.com. Seattle Eats is produced by Brandy Fullwood and Claire McRain. It's edited by Jim Gates and Trevor Lenzmeier. I'm Tan Vinh.